Welcome to our podcast. We are the Astral Projectors. I am Ken, and this is Brad, my co-host, and our other co-host, Doug, is still missing in action.
Continually so, apparently.
Yeah.
What's going on with Doug?
I don't know. I just called him. I was texting him yesterday, and I guess he's just still in a lot of pain and stuff, and he's not getting treatment from the VA yet. And so I texted him yesterday, and he's like, I don't know, I haven't been feeling good. And I'm like, well, it's not that big of a deal, man. Like, let's just get some. I mean, these initial ones that we're doing, we're just practicing and getting kinks worked out, you know. And then he never responded, so I just texted him again, and then I called him, and he didn't answer, and so I sent him another text. So I don't know. Who knows? Who knows what's going on with that guy?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, what can you say, right? So
yeah.
If he's not into it, then he's not into it. I'm not.
Then
you
can
know,
go and
with the
die.
guy.
Yeah, exactly. So, anyways, you were asking me if I was
Yeah.
registered to vote. Yes, I am registered to vote.
Cool.
I actually was registered to vote back in Anaheim, and since I just moved back in March to Garden Grove, I had to re-register, and I just re-registered like a week or two ago.
Yeah.
And growing up, I always registered Republican because actually, initially, I registered independent, thinking that would let me vote however I wanted, and then I realized
But
that's
of
not
course
how
did
it
not.
worked.
Yeah. Right.
So I switched to Republican, and then during the last election, I switched to Democrat, thinking, living in California, being able to vote in the Democratic elections might be handy.
Primaries and stuff, sure.
Yeah, but I just switched back to Republican.
But it turns out that the Democratic primaries can be voted for or voted in by either party, although the Republican primaries cannot. So, yeah.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. That's crazy.
Believe so. So yeah. But yeah. So in any case, I don't know. That may not be the case anymore, but it used to be. Yeah, I don't know. I was registered Republican like for a while. I don't even know what I'm registered anymore. I think I might actually still be registered Republican because I haven't re-registered, in some time. And I keep getting the Republican, mailers for primaries and shit.
Yeah.
So I'm probably still registered Republican. I don't
Probably.
really care.
I mean, yeah, if you're getting that stuff,
I don't-
then I would say you are.
I don't vote. I don't vote in the primaries, right?
No, I don't
Because,
know. Yeah,
yeah.
I vote. I feel like I vote every 2 years. I think.
Right, which is Senate and House, and then
And then whatever props,
then,
whatever props come up, and other stuff.
yeah, like presidentials every 4. Then interim elections are are split. So every 2.
So yeah, I think
For
I vote.
Senate.
I think that's when I vote every 2 years. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I grew up leaning heavily towards the Republican side, and I really agree with the Republican ideals, like ideologies and stuff. But I just
Sure.
feel like the Republican Party leaders suck, and they have for a long, long, long time, since George W. Bush, maybe even before that. They say that
Sure.
they, agree with the Republican ideologies, but then once they're in power, they don't do that. So,
Yeah.
so I guess I'm absolutely not a Trump fan. Like, even though I'm registered Republican, I would vote Democrat. Obviously, I'll vote for
Yeah.
Joe Biden this election, even though I'm definitely
Yeah.
not a Democrat fan.
I'm not a huge Biden supporter. I don't mind the guy. He's he's real old school, politics type Democrat. I mean, he's been in public office since the 70s. So it's not like he's some sort of new blood or new vision or whatever.
No,
That you might, some people might be looking for.
and he does that creepy thing where he smells people's hair.
He does some creepy stuff generally.
Yeah,
He's got those 2 long hugs, and
yeah, yeah.
and people call him Uncle Joe. And like, I've never been a fan of that. Like,
No,
Uncle whoever, because
no, yeah,
because I don't know. There's that like creepy uncle meme, that before there was the term meme, it was just like I don't know, a thing.
right,
You know?
right.
So, yeah, I've never liked the idea of somebody being called uncle. I don't know, unless it was like specifically like somebody who was your uncle.
Who was your uncle? Right, yeah.
Yeah. But maybe that's just
Yeah, I don't know. Like I'm not, like I said, I'm not a huge. I like I said, I swing the Republican ideology way, but I guess I'm just gonna like search for Republican leaders that don't suck, and I don't know if there are any, but that's my
yeah,
goal.
yeah. I mean, there aren't many Democrats, that don't suck.
I
But
just think
guess,
that there aren't
I
many
guess
leaders of our country that don't suck. Like once you
on
become a leader of
balance,
the
yeah.
country, all you care about is making yourself money, and screw everything else.
It's just getting yourself reelected, right?
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. It's like it's a truism, right? That once you're in office, the first thing you have to do is worry about how you're going to get reelected next term.
Right. Which shouldn't be your first concern. It
No,
should be,
no, not at all.
what can I do to fix things while I'm here?
I kind of prefer the Roman way of things, which was to require public service, right? And being in office was public service, right? You can get paid, and like it was kind of like doing time in the army, right? Nobody was really excited about doing it, but everybody did it because it was required. And like you made the laws that needed to be there, and that was it. Later,
Yeah.
of course, that changed in the Roman Empire. But I don't know. It's like
I don't know if
it's
it
like
needs to be like that, but I've recently started thinking that it should be a bit of a sacrifice. That doesn't necessarily mean you have to make
sure.
zero money. I mean, you can make 30 grand a year or whatever minimum. I mean, 30 grand
Yeah,
a
sure.
year in California, that would be like minimum to survive. Minimum,
Well, yeah, it's,
minimum to survive. But
it's all about how they can create laws that benefit themselves while
Right.
they're in office.
right, and then they create committees that benefit themselves and frickin'
Yeah, they raise their own their own income.
Yeah, and then they join these committees. They make extra money. Then they make regulations that give those committees retirement plans and
Yeah,
all these.
sure.
It's just freaking ridiculous. And then they.
Yeah,
then-
the benefits for being a senator or a House member, congressman, are insane. They have nothing to do with for instance, like the health benefits package, that like every other public employee or government employee gets. It pales in comparison to what you get as a congressman or a senator, and I think that's really lame.
It's terrible.
Like,
and then
yeah.
and then they make a law that everyone wants, but then they go, oh, but in order to pass that law, you have to give us all these extra benefits that we've put into the frickin' law. And it's like, why?
oh,
why?
right, yeah, attach all the riders and everything.
Yeah, it's so.
I'm
frickin'
not
terrible.
a big fan of riders. I understand why they exist. I just think that they've been so fully corrupted by the system, and by the people that are involved in the system. That they're no longer like viable as like benefits, right? Because
Right.
you hear, okay, well, you got this big spending package. I'm going to attach this rider, that like for something good, like I don't know, some reform for homeless, support or whatever. Yeah, sure, that's a good rider, to attach to the spending bill, which has to pass, right? But you got way too many riders going on every bill that are not in the public interest, for
Right.
the public good.
They're in the interest of the people making the bills, like
Or-
making
or the,
themselves
or the-
richer, or
or the
yeah,
lobbyists.
lobbyists or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
That's
I don't
what it
know, the whole drain the swamp idea that Trump came in with, like, I mean I've been a fan of that idea for a long time, but for me it hasn't been like, because I've always been under the impression that the president has a lot of power. Don't get me wrong, but his power is contained. It's limited.
Oh yeah, sure.
It's freaking
Absolutely.
Senate and Congress that needs to be.
Well, I mean, it
trained.
was. Sorry, it was.
But yeah, I know all the executive orders and stuff that they get away with nowadays.
Yeah. Well, and they have, for a number of presidents, in the past, recently, since, I don't know, probably maybe Clinton or something like that, like executive orders. The problem is that the number of executive orders has exploded, right?
Yeah.
It's like, there was like, well, okay, so there was a certain way of doing things, like prior to Trump, right? That that's just gone out the window. It's like it's like there's a certain way of doing things prior to Franklin Roosevelt, where all presidents did they served 2 terms max and that was it. But there's no law, right? But that was the way things were done, right? And then Franklin Roosevelt came in and he did 4 terms, right? And then his successor said, okay, well let's go ahead and put that 2-term limit in the Constitution, right?
Right.
But I don't know that that's going to be the case for the successor to Trump, where like everything goes back to normal, or we have, some of this stuff codified into law, that used to be just like the way you do things, but isn't now because of Trump, right?
Yeah, but I mean, a lot
I
of
don't
the
know.
things that I think have changed with Trump, like the executive orders thing, I remember Obama signed off a lot of executive orders.
It's like a factor of 10, dude.
Yeah.
In comparison.
Oh,
I mean,
is it?
you know what I mean? Yeah, it's really startling. Is basically that's the deal. It's I agree that Obama I think overused the executive order, like, but that was talking while he was in office. It was like, dude, this is a lot of executive orders,
Yeah.
and it was, it was like twice as many, executive orders or something like that, as the previous president,
Right.
which was startling. People were like really surprised about that. But then, you look at Trump and you're just like, dude, this is like 10 times as many, and it's just, it's depressing,
Yeah.
because you're just like, fuck, man, I thought it was bad, and I thought I knew how bad it could get, right, and then it got worse.
Right.
So,
Well, but it's more than
it's
just.
upsetting.
It's more than
But
just.
you're right. It's more than just executive orders.
Right, and it's
but
more
yeah.
than just Trump. It's the whole culture of America, and I want to say even deeper or more than that because of social media and the way it affects things all around the
Sure, yeah.
world. With Brexit
I-
and everything.
I agree that that social media, has been a factor, and there have been a lot of factors, right? But speaking just about politics, right, and not like shit up all over the world, I think that that Donald Trump breaking down the norms of like political society and politics, and doing the things that he's done to enrich himself, and the scandals, the quote scandals, that have been going on, that he just shrugs off, has really done like some serious permanent damage to like politics in the USA that like I don't think I've ever seen, or like I know of. It's like it's pretty bad. Anyway, whatever.
I mean, yeah, in
So,
my
yeah.
lifetime for sure. I mean, I think I don't remember who was president when I was born, but I know growing up Reagan was president,
Yeah.
and then there was the first George Bush, and then Clinton, and then so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, it was a lot more professional back when I was a kid than it
Yeah.
is. But I mean, like I said, man, even before Trump, going back to George
Like
Bush,
the levels,
George
the
W.
levels
Bush.
of lying, right? Like lying almost for no reason. It's like
Not just lying; it's
Yeah, I don't know,
manipulation.
yeah.
It's such,
Yeah.
and this is what I was going to say. Culturally, is that you see it with like these antagonists that are out there. Like you have the people going out to protest, and then you have people showing up at the protests.
Counter
and
protesters, yeah.
Well, not just that, but delivering bricks so that they can make the protesters seem terrible. And and you have like all this manipulation going on back and forth, and you have the media. Like, man, sometimes the media, like you'll see like unedited footage of something, and you see, and then you look at each media's version of what they showed versus the unedited footage, and it's just there's just such ridiculous amounts of manipulation going on, and with social media and the bots and everything else going on, it's like this crazy weird world that we live in, where
Yeah.
there's just so much manipulation going on, and you just have to not let yourself get caught up in it. And you know, I think
That's
we
almost
talked-
impossible to not do that.
Right, exactly. And I think we talked about this on the last one about how social media is a freaking facade anyways. So, it's just a weird world that we're living in right now. And politically,
Yeah.
and what you were saying about what Donald Trump has done with breaking down things,
It's breaking down the norms, right? You know, it's not just like a challenging the status quo, but it's a degrading of like a certain set of standards, right? It's like
Well-
I'm not gonna claim that there were that it was like a golden age, you know, before Trump or before whatever. You know, where people acted, like properly or connect or whatever, but there were a certain set of standards, that people adhered to, for the most part, and that you could kind of count on, people understanding that they were there and at least striving to meet those set of standards. And then Trump comes along and really and just kind of throws a lot of that out, throws the baby out with the bathwater, I guess you could say,
Yeah.
trying to get whatever thing he needed to get done.
it makes you
And it's-
feel
it's
like
really
you're
disappointing.
living. It makes you feel like you're living in a crazy world around and surrounded by
Yeah.
crazy people, and it makes you like
Yeah.
stressed out about the your surroundings basically. But
It gives me a sense of cognitive dissonance, where like I understand something to be true. I know something, like I know the sky is blue, and yet I'm getting bombarded with this messaging that the sky is fucking purple,
Right.
And like, and it's just, but I know, I know that this, that like these things are true, but I'm constantly getting bombarded with this message from people in a position which I formerly trusted, right? Saying that what I know to be true is not true, right? And yet I can look out my window and say, yes, I know it's true because I see it's true, and so, and it really causes a lot of, like mental stress,
Right, exactly. But anyways, what I was saying was, or what I was going to say is that this is what his followers wanted, though. This is the draining of the swamp, the death of PC culture. People since I was born have talked about PC.
Sure, yeah. Well,
political
I don't know
correctness
about
and how
before I
much
was
they
born,
hated
but
it. Well, I mean,
um,
but I mean, when I was growing up, I remember people talking about, "Oh, you're
Yeah.
being PC."
Oh, you're
just
being
stop,"
PC,
and-
yeah, political
yeah,
correct.
and they've always hated that, and so now
Well,
Trump is throwing that all away.
the draining of the swamp thing, though, like, okay, so he claims, he purported, to be for the idea of draining the swamp, but like when he came in, he immediately, I mean, it's not happened, like none of it has happened, like he's drained nothing.
Oh, I
right?
totally agree with you, but his
and-
followers believe
But
he has.
but really.
His worshippers, absolutely.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Because he's worked tirelessly to break down that PC culture and like has had some success. I think in that, like in that or at least among his followers, I guess, or in some sense, it's obvious that he's working toward breaking down some amount of that politically correct culture, I think possibly because he's like a little racist, or maybe a little racist. I don't know.
I
You
don't
know what I
know.
mean? But like,
This is probably going to sound like controversial, but I don't actually know that he is racist. I think
I
he's
think he
very,
is.
very smart, and he knows that by doing these outrageous things and saying these controversial, outrageous things, one, it's going to get him the extremist vote, and two, it's going to allow him to manipulate people. And
I wonder though. Like, okay, so you say it's going to give him the extremist vote. Like, how many people is that? Like, like, okay, so when you've got a political base, was what they call it, right? You're playing to your base, or you're playing as a politician. It's like the extreme left or the extreme right. Like, there's a sea of people, like, a lot of people in the middle who are turned off by that messaging, right?
sure.
How many people are you talking when you say, well, it's going to give them the extremist vote? It's like, well,
there's
How
a
many
lot of
people
people
is
that
that?
are there's a lot of people that are, in my opinion, there's at least about almost as many people that are turned on by that, and those people are all in the right places to win them the electoral vote. That's what I think.
Well, I don't know. Maybe I don't know.
Because
I mean, you know what? I don't have any science on it, so I don't know.
here's the
couldn't
way
tell you.
I don't either. But here's the way I look at it: is that you have your Democrats that are always going to vote Democrat, your Republicans that are always going to vote Republican, and then you have your people that are in the middle or on the extreme. And certain people are just never going to vote. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
you can't go after them. You can't go after those votes because they're just not going to vote. They're not going to show up. So
Yeah, what they're trying to do is to catalyze those people in the middle that don't have a strong opinion and normally would not vote, to instead vote, to whichever party that the the person is calling to.
Right.
I guess you could say that that the people on the extremes are more likely to be catalyzed, right, and actually get out there and vote. Right. So the
they
question
care.
for the people, the question for the people on the extremes is not whether or not you'll vote for a Republican or Democrat. It's whether or not you'll vote.
Right.
And so if they can catalyze that number of people to vote, then they'll vote their political party.
Right.
Whereas the people in the middle, you not only have to convince to vote, but also to vote for your candidate, right or left.
Exactly. And here's the
so,
thing. I
yeah.
remember back when Obama won, thinking to myself, because I voted for Obama the first time. I didn't vote for him the second time, but I voted for him the first time. And I voted Republican my whole life until then. And when he won, I was just so disillusioned with the Republican Party that I thought,
Yeah.
this is different. This is something
Yeah.
new.
That Bush 8 years was real rough.
Was real rough, and so this is something different. I'm gonna try it and see what happens. And he won, and after 4 years, I was like, no, I didn't like that. So at that point, I was disillusioned with politics in general, so I didn't even vote at all. But I remember when Obama won, the Republican Party were so defeated, and they said on CNN, I was watching the CNN during that time, and the Republican people were all saying, oh, we have to push even further to the extreme.
Yeah,
and I was like,
that's true. Yeah.
Are you insane? You've already lost me. If you go even further to the extreme, you're going to lose me even more. And
What's funny about that, and they did, right?
and they did push even more to the extreme, and they won. So
yeah. Well, okay, but the thing is, you have to understand that that election, right? When Obama won his second term, the Republicans won, a majority in Congress, right?
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, the Senate.
Yeah.
I don't know about Congress, but in the Senate. So even at the time, when the Republicans had were quite defeated, where the Democrat was voted in for a second term and all that kind of stuff, they still won more seats in the Senate, right? And so like what they did then, was, I mean, they did after that they did a lot of gerrymandering and a lot of work at the street level, right, to modify, and you can look this up if you like. This is a really interesting story in how they, quote, came back from that from that defeat. But they did a lot of like street level political tinkering so that they could modify districts, right, to skew them a little bit more Republican, and then they threw their weight behind individual candidates at the lower levels of politics, right, to get more power to do the same kind of thing, right, and it worked out for them really well, and so and so you see, that's why the Republicans have continued to win majorities in the House and the Senate, even though the Democrats are trying to work to win races as well. The thing that I remember quite specifically about the Trump win, right, was that when he came into office, he also had a majority in the Senate and in Congress. And then the interstitial election, 2 years later, right, he still had that majority, and yet, and so what they've done with that is to push through, like, the most, like, distasteful sort of, laws. It's like it's terrible. And basically like it seemed like for me, right, like when I continue to hear over and over again, that like, about what the Republican Party is doing and quote and what Trump's taking credit for, is basically just dismantling every single thing that Obama quote achieved during his 8 years, right? Like every environmental regulation, every fucking social policy, like all those, he just wants to turn them over like one by one by one by one.
Right.
And it's like it just I'm just looking at it like, Jesus Christ, is this gonna be how it is going forward every time we elect a president? Like,
right.
because the next one, is just going to dismantle, or try to dismantle, what Trump has done.
Right.
And then the next one's going to try to dismantle what their predecessor has done. And it's like, if that's the case, because previous to this, right? Previous to this, even fucking Obama did not try to dismantle every fucking thing that, that Bush did. Even Bush did not try to dismantle everything that Clinton did, right?
Yeah.
It's like they had a few key points, that they were like, we didn't like these things, and so we're going to change those, and they tried to do that, sometimes successfully, sometimes unsuccessfully, but they weren't like, to a T, like literally just flipping the fucking bit, for everything that, that the previous guy had done, right? They just weren't doing that because one, I didn't think that you would have time to do that, right?
Right.
You have other things going on, but apparently I was wrong. But Trump really has, like, he has taken pride in doing this. Every single fucking thing that
Trump
Obama did
was really, really anti-Obama the whole time he was
absolutely
in office.
That whole fucking birther thing, dude.
But he
I was
wasn't
just
the
like,
only
oh my
one.
God.
He wasn't the only one. There were a lot of
No,
people
absolutely not. Yeah.
that just. I mean, I remember when Obama was in
Dude,
office, people saying that he was the frickin' Antichrist.
I
He
know,
was
because
gonna-
like, okay, part of that I think is a big part of that is because he was fucking black, and like middle American white guys don't like a black guy as president. Like, that's the deal. I have lived in fucking Oklahoma, I have lived in Texas, I've lived in Georgia, I've lived in Illinois, and I will tell you right now, and I know, guys like currently from the Midwest, who's like basically their sticking point with Obama, right? Like, even like you get rid of politics and all, like that guy's black and shouldn't be in office. He should, like, we should not have a black guy as president. Like, I swear to God, it is insane to me that, like, fucking in 2020, okay, or
Right.
in 2016 or 20, whatever, like, anytime in the past 20 years, like, I would have heard that, and yet I heard it over and over and over and over and over and over again. Like, I swear to fucking God, dude, like, you may not think that that's the case. I will tell you right now from the people that I have heard from, and I am not, I don't sit in the fucking, in the din of iniquity, in fucking, in the American South, looking for fucking white power guys to talk to. This is just like regular, I guess, regular dudes, who like just hated the idea that like a black guy was president. And I'm just
No,
like, fucking
but
A, dude. What the fuck?
Yeah, I totally. I mean, I definitely believe you. But it's the funny thing is, and what you were saying about living in 2016 or 2020 or whatever. I was talking to somebody about that the other day about how
Yeah.
I think to myself all the time, like, I feel like there are just certain arguments that we should just be beyond that now.
I'd like to be.
for example, race and gay rights and trans rights and all that stuff and women's rights. It's like, how is that still an
Yeah.
issue? Like, can't we just move past that? Like,
I agree.
we should have been past that a long, long time ago. But then, you look around the world and you think, man, like, in some countries, the way they treat their women.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And then,
like, okay, so I will say to your point here, right? Yes, there are countries, there are places that are so much worse for certain classes of people, women or minorities or peoples of color or anyone you want to pick, right? It doesn't really matter. But there are places where it is better than here, right? For
Sure.
classes
no,
of people,
my
that
point-
have problems here.
my point was going to be
Okay.
that then you even think about America and you realize,
Okay. Oh yeah.
even here in America, man, the way we treat, black people or,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, just gay people, trans people,
Sure.
women, like the way we treat
Women.
people. I mean, it's just insane. Like, I feel that we should be way
offensive.
beyond that. But I mean, and it's not even just like places like Georgia or whatever that you were talking about. Here in Orange
Sure.
County, man, there are people, they might not be out and
Dude.
and,
Mexicans, like
Well,
You know,
no, I mean,
the way that Hispanics are treated around here, you know, is as bad as, you know, in some cases as bad as you know, African Americans are treated in the South.
yeah,
You know,
yeah. But I mean,
you know, it's like, yeah,
it's not
I know
just
what you mean.
It's
Yeah.
not just Mexicans, man. Like
Right.
sometimes I'll go to a party and people think that because I have almost no hair because I'm freaking balding that I'm like a skinhead or something. And so
Oh,
they'll
right.
like open up to me and make racist jokes and racist comments and shit. And
Are
it's
you
like,
kidding me? Really?
yeah, no, yeah, because it's like, oh, you're in our secret little group now. It's just the
Jeez.
four of us white people, white men here, you know. And it's like,
Right,
and I just
right.
like, I'm like, holy shit, like, I don't even know how to respond or what to do.
Right.
But
Yeah, yeah,
it,
that's
yeah,
true.
I mean, it's here. It's not just in the South or whatever. It's all around.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely, it is. You know, even in this first world country, you know, that you would think would have, you know, the most progressive ideas, you know, kind of entrenched. You know, we're in California.
Right.
You know, which is considered a very progressive, you know, state,
One of
progressive
the most
area,
diverse places around.
right? And you know, and one of the most, you know, economically advanced, you know, places. And yet still here, you know, we've got a lot of problems with, you know, the treatment of minorities, and I don't even call you can't even call them minorities, just non-white, non-straight people. You
Yeah.
know, yeah,
But
Yeah,
what
it's
were you
crazy.
saying? What you were saying earlier about that defeat? You said when the Republicans lost to Obama, that was a defeat. And it's funny
Oh sure, yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
because I don't, you know, so one party wins over the other. You
Right.
know, in 4 years you're going to get another chance. It's not a defeat.
That's right.
We're all Americans, Republican, Democrat, Independent, Green Party, Libertarian. We're all Americans. We're all on the same frickin' team. It's no, there's this. I don't understand this us versus them. If we lose an election, that wasn't a defeat. No, man.
Well,
like,
yeah, but that has been entrenched in our political system, you know, nearly since the beginning. Not actually since the beginning, but nearly since the beginning. You know, you have to remember that, you know, it was our fourth presidential election where, you know, where you started to see people campaigning, right? Okay, so you know, so you had George Washington, who didn't campaign. Of course, he was just elected president, right? You know, nearly
Right.
appointed, but you know, pretty much elected president. And then you know, two more presidents go by before you see anybody campaigning. You know, actually campaigning, saying, "Hey, I want to be president. I should be president," right? But since then, right? And by the way, that particular election was looked down on. Like, you know, that guy. It wasn't Jefferson. It was. I want to say it was Adams. No, you know what? I don't know offhand. I can't remember my goddamn social studies class. But anyway, you know, they were looked down upon, seriously looked down upon for campaigning. You know, it was really considered like you know, sort of a dirty sort of thing to do, right? But ever since then, you know, you've had political parties and you've had campaigning, and which means you've had, you know, winners and losers, right? You know, somebody wins, somebody loses, and then everybody, you know, in that person's party that won considers themselves, you know, to have won that, and everybody, you know, in the other party considers themselves to have lost that. And that's especially true ever since the point where, you know, the vice president was no longer the loser in that race, right? The vice president was somebody that was elected along with the president, right? Because originally, it was whoever lost, you know, was vice president, which I think like would have been a really interesting system to keep alive, right?
Yeah.
Because then, you know, then you would have, because the vice president is is by definition the leader of the Senate, right? He's the tiebreaker vote in the Senate and all that kind of stuff, and he would be of the other party, right?
Yeah.
He'd be of the you know, of the opposite party to the president, you know, who won. You know, and then I don't know. I think that would be really a really interesting system to have kept alive.
I agree. I agree. That would be interesting, you know, to keep things kind of in check a little bit.
Yeah,
'Cause
it would be
really-
nice to. Yeah, that's what we've lost so far, right? Or at least currently, is that ability to keep things in check.
Right, because really, if the leaders of our country want to do what's right for us, then they need to be working together, not fighting each
Yeah.
other.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
they're not, and so they're not
Because
doing
because
what's
half
right for
because
us.
half this fucking country is the other half of this country, right? You know,
Right.
it's just like essentially, I mean, you have your independence, and your number of different parties, that no longer matter. But that's a relatively small amount, as compared, to the whole,
Yeah.
which is like the main two-party system. And so if you're one party and you're pushing your agenda through, over the back of the other party, then what you're doing is a disservice to half of the country, right?
Exactly.
Essentially, I mean, maybe not on the whole, but as a general rule, I think that's true. And the important, like the whole checks and balances thing that is inherent to our government, I think was the real genius idea and important idea in our democracy versus other prior democracies, right? Because you can have a democracy that isn't fair at all, right? It's just the tyranny of the majority, right?
Right.
That just pushes down the minority at every turn, and then you have a system that is tyrannical, right?
Right. Exactly.
And is totally unfair and unlivable. But our system specifically is set up with a set of checks and balances that allow for those for those kinds of impulses to be controlled in our environment, right? They cannot come to fruition because there are other branches of government that have equal power that that allow for for those things to be stopped.
Right.
The judicial branch, the Congress and the Senate, and then the president. But at this point, those are highly out of balance, right? You've got the judicial branch, which is exceptionally powerful in a very small and narrow corridor, right? And then you've got the House and the Senate, which can't get anything done, right? So their power has waned. And then the executive branch, which has had its powers expanded over the course of the past 30 to 40 years to a highly unfair amount, right? That
Yeah.
allows executive orders to pass without any checks or anything else.
Right.
Sure, those executive orders can be countermanded. They can be countermanded by even by the judiciary or the Congress or whatever. Although the Congress rarely countermands them, if ever, and the judiciary has been trying to keep that in check, right? As it's been overturning executive order after executive order in a few cases, right? Specifically related to immigration, recently. But it can only do so much because it can only stop those executive orders if somebody else brings some sort of suit against it. You know what I mean? Like, says, hey, this is unfair. I want to challenge this. Then the judiciary branch can come in and say, okay, we rule that it's not fair. But so far, the executive branch really has had its powers expanded, to a point where it's really, really scary. And then you have somebody like, Donald Trump come in, who is ready to take advantage of that situation, right?
Right.
It's because if he had come into power 30 years ago, 40 years ago, whatever, he wouldn't have had the impact that he has had so far. He couldn't have had the impact because there were the other branches of government were still set up and not weakened in such a way that they are incapable or rarely capable of countermanding
Right.
the executive branch. But now, at this point, all he's got to do is just continue to expand the powers of the executive branch, and then hope to get reelected, or try to ensure his reelection, by doing stupid shit like the Postal Service stuff.
Right.
So that's my opinion anyway. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. It's
Anyway.
it's an interesting time we're living in.
Yeah. Goddamn Chinese and their interesting times. Blessing, curse, whatever. You know what I'm talking about?
I don't.
A Chinese proverb. It's debated whether it's a blessing or a curse, but it is may you live in interesting times, right? Is that's the quote blessing, right? But it's it's considered a curse.
Gotcha.
When you live in interesting times. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, uh, that's all. So yeah, these are interesting times.
Definitely.
Blessed or cursed, I don't know. But
a lot of weird shit going on in 2020.
yeah, I was really surprised about that whole Portland thing when they had that free zone or whatever that they were doing. Did you hear about that?
I did, yeah.
A little bit, yeah. Yeah, that was. I was surprised that that was kind of allowed to happen and then to exist for however long it did. I guess it's gone now, but
I wasn't.
yeah.
I mean, knowing it was in Portland, I wasn't that surprised.
Really? I mean, it's a major American city, dude. It's not. It's like, yeah, there's a bunch of hippies that kind of live up there, or whatever. But geez.
I just wasn't. What can I tell you?
Anyway, okay.
But Valerie's daughter was actually there during that time.
Oh, was she?
And Valerie had to go drive up there and pick up her daughter because she didn't feel safe, like a week or two
Wow.
into it. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
she told me the story about it, man. It was crazy.
Yeah, no doubt. There's some crazy shit going on up there. I wouldn't know
Yeah.
if that's safe.
Yeah.
Shit. Yeah.
Yeah, that was an interesting thing. I mean, I don't know. Whatever. I was.
Yeah, I don't have much of an opinion on it because I wasn't there, but
Yeah, I wasn't there, so I really don't have an opinion on it either. I don't know.
yeah, there was a lot of back and forth about how it was better, it was worse, it was better, it was worse, it was that, it was this, there was that,
But
So
I don't know.
have no idea.
I work with somebody who I think is totally on the side of like defunding the police
Yeah.
and all that, and I'm just like he was telling me a story about someone he used to go to school with, and she's a cop now, and something she tweeted, and how he's trying to get her fired, and I'm like, I mean, I don't know, like the thing she tweeted about during the whole George Floyd thing, probably not the smartest thing to do, but I mean, it's just Twitter. You don't really know what's going on. All she did.
Yeah.
At first, she posted a couple links to some articles with and she didn't say anything. And it's like, well, you don't even know what her opinion is on those things. She didn't post an opinion.
Right,
She just posted
yeah.
links. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And so I don't know. Once he had told me the whole thing, I was kind of like, yeah, I could see that she could maybe like have her Twitter deactivated and maybe like, I don't know, be talked to by one of her superiors and maybe have some training or something. I don't know. But no, he
Yeah.
like wanted to get her fired. And then you have this whole defund.
Well,
the
I mean,
police.
some people are just that into the drama, right? It's like they don't want to take small steps, they don't want to take reasonable steps, they want to take the biggest step possible.
Yeah.
You
But then,
So-
yeah, you have this whole defund the police movement going on, and I saw
Yeah.
somebody post on Facebook that defund the police doesn't mean that they actually want to defund the police. It's just the name
Depends
of
on
their
who you
movement.
talk to, though, too. Yeah.
And in my opinion, if your ultimate goal isn't to defund the police, then that's a terrible
Then
name
that shouldn't
for
be
your
the name of your
movement.
movement.
Yeah,
Right.
because
I agree. Yeah.
people are going to see that and they're going to think that that's what your goal is, for one.
Right.
And two, there might be some extreme people in the leadership position of that movement who really do want to defund the police. And
Well,
if you
there
just
are
wa-
definitely some people in that movement that do want to, actually defund the police.
Right,
I
and
don't
if
know. I don't know. I don't know about their leadership at all.
I don't either.
Like either way, but
But if that's
like,
not your
if you-
goal and you're just riding along, then all of a sudden maybe that is actually their goal. You know what I mean?
even if it's not their end goal to quote defund, like to actually defund the police, literally, you're right in that that is a bad name for a movement, because if you achieve your goal and you have not defunded the police, then what does
Right.
it look like?
Right, yeah, exactly. It's just all around.
no,
you're not going to
my understanding of it. My understanding of it, yeah, all around that's terrible. But my understanding of it is that is correct. It is not their goal to dissolve police departments entirely, by defunding them completely. They want to, basically, like, I think their idea is fire everybody and then restaff them and retrain them. Right.
Right.
That's kind of the idea. Which.
I don't know if they want to fire everyone, but I know that what I read is I think they want to like disarm the police. And
Yeah,
then
I do know that their level of like violent or deadly weapons or whatever, would be greatly reduced. Guns and
Right.
all that kind of
And
stuff.
then take a lot of the money that goes into funding those things and spend that money on retraining the police. And then probably getting rid of a lot
also
of the bad
social
ones.
social programs too, right?
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Or actually, I think it was kind of like fire everybody, make them basically retest to, like, basically make them reapply, right? To be police officers. Like basically, make everybody go through the application process again. If they want their jobs, to make sure that like all of them are still qualified, or they don't have beliefs that like racist biased beliefs that should bar them from being police officers. But either way, whether you're firing everybody and then totally restaffing, or just making everybody reapply, I mean that's a big process, of course. I think in certain places, that's maybe not a bad idea, because like there are police precincts and cities that have had endemic problems with like basically their entire police force.
Maybe
that
I mean
they
I know
benefit
I
from something
read
like that. I don't know.
I read on Facebook after the George Floyd thing.
Good on Facebook.
Melanie posted something about a bunch of cops like didn't show up to work in protest because of the George Floyd thing, and I don't remember exactly what it was, but the way it read to me was basically that these cops were protesting the fact that they had to be accountable if they murdered somebody. That's just the way it read to me. And it's like, dude, if you're protesting that, then you shouldn't be a cop. Like, you should be investigated probably and get fired. Like,
no, I know. It's the police union has a lot of rhetoric about that. About basically, it seems like they fight to be accountable for nothing, in order for when they have to compromise with whoever they negotiate with to keep policemen on the payroll, 'cause being the police union, then they can compromise to a position that like is better than if they came in with like reasonable demands and then had to compromise those. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But either way, that like even stating an opinion like that is like fucking crazy,
right. And
I don't think I need to do paperwork if I shoot somebody. Like, I don't think it matters, or whatever. It's like, fuck you, dude. Like, even if you're using that like as a negotiating tactic, I don't think I want to negotiate with you.
right. Yeah. Like you're starting out. Yeah. Exactly.
You're starting out crazy, and I don't want to go there.
Right. Okay, then you should be fired. Like, yeah.
Right. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Your negotiating tactic no longer means you need to be on the police force.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I respect police. I know it's a very difficult job.
Yeah,
I've always
absolutely.
respected
It
the
is. No
police.
matter what anybody says about it, right? It is a difficult job. Whether you like the police or not, like. By the book, right? If you're just looking at like what they have to do and deal with, every day, it's a fucking hard job to do.
Very
and,
difficult.
Yeah. So,
and
I'm with you on that one.
And so, I mean, my thing is, and I've always kind of felt this way, is that even the best human being on the planet still makes mistakes, still has bad days, and when they're having a bad day, they might take it out on someone, might abuse their power a little bit.
Right, and if I'm a tech support guy doing that, that's one thing. But if I'm a guy with a gun, in the street looking for people, to make sure they're not doing bad things, then that's completely fucking different.
Right, exactly. Because cops have so much power, and
right,
they have more power than they should have. Because if I go to court against a cop, my word and the cop's word should have the same weight. But it doesn't.
And of course they don't. Yeah,
it doesn't. Yeah, I mean, in the eyes of jury members, in the eyes of judges, they're going to believe the
in
judge
the eyes of the
over
legal
me.
system.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
I for me, I've always felt that cops just need to have that higher level of accountability, and it kind of goes back to that public service thing we were talking about earlier about how public servants should should be a bit of a sacrifice. If you want to be a cop, you should. I mean, I think you should get paid well. It's a hard job. You should have good benefits, but
I think
you have to be more accountable.
I think you're onto something there, though. I agree that like the accountability level needs to be higher. The bar that you set for police needs to be higher, but commensurately, right? They need to make more money. Their benefits need to be better. Like you can't be cutting police salaries. Like those guys are out there doing a hard fucking job, and they risk their lives doing it, right?
Right.
Like it's not just hazard pay. I mean, you like policemen and teachers and important like essentially government officials or public officials like that. And I talk about teachers too because goddamn their fucking job is hard.
Their job is hard, and it's one of the most important jobs on the planet, man.
Right. And
Education,
just like police, right?
education should be our number one goal in the world. Like the
Right.
more well
Like, yeah.
educated everyone is, the better the world will be in the long run.
Right, and it's an accelerant, right?
Right.
In that, like, the smarter people or rather, the more educated they are, the smarter they can be, the better they can do in every aspect of their lives, right?
Right. The more innovations we're going to have, the more,
Right, yeah.
just the better things are going to be on every level.
Right. I really look at our expenditure, our budget, right? And like that defense budget really should be like education and welfare, right?
Right.
And I don't mean like welfare like welfare moms, welfare. I mean like the welfare of the society,
Right.
like health, our budget for hospitals and and all that kind of stuff, and then our education budget and our what am I trying to say here? Our like
Art
our
programs.
like our well yeah I rap education, art and music is also in there because like traditionally it's been part of that, right?
Right.
But our public welfare systems, right? Like our streets and roads, like providing the infrastructure, right? That's what I'm talking about, infrastructure spending, okay, which includes policemen, firemen, teachers, roads, hospitals, all that kind of shit, right? I think that's what should get the lion's share of our budget rather than defense. You see what I'm saying?
I do.
It's like I think it should be flipped, kind of.
I do. I mean, I don't know. Like, just knowing the country we live in, and I mean, I haven't really traveled outside of California that much or the country that much, but just knowing the way America is, and guessing at how other places in the world are.
This is a dreamer's fucking
right, yeah.
topic, and it's not like I ever think this is actually going to happen, I'm not even sure if in the real world like it would ever work. It would be nice, and I would like to think that if that happened, right, we would need less of a defense budget because we would be like the bright shining city on the hill, right?
We would be past all the stupid issues and all the stupid fighting, and we could just work together
exactly
towards a
right.
brighter future.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if that would happen. It would be great if it did. I'd like to see it, just to see if it would.
We would have the Star Trek future.
Right. Yeah, you'd think so, right?
Yeah.
And at that point, it's like we spend so fucking much on defense, right? That there would probably still be money left over, to like give to other countries.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Just like, hey, maybe think about increasing your education budget. Here's some cash.
And people wouldn't be scared about like giving money to other countries and helping other people out. And shit
Right,
like that.
because essentially you have so much extra, right?
Right.
Because you're just like, well, okay, I've already spent it on this, and this, and like all of these things are fully funded, and like nobody's asking for extra money in this stuff, and then we've still got this surplus. What do we do with it?
And people, I mean, in that world, ideally, if we get to that world, people wouldn't necessarily think of other countries as the enemy or the them.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, it wouldn't be an us and them. It would all be us.
Right, all of us.
know?
We're all humans.
Yeah.
We're all us. We're all in this
Yeah.
together. Yeah.
Yeah, all of us can move forward. Remember that, fucking
Right.
a rising tide lifts all boats. You know?
Right.
Let's
We're
raise that
all
fucking
together.
tide.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that metaphor. The rising tide lifts all boats because it's fucking so goddamn true, right?
Yeah.
It's like but what are you gonna do, right? I mean, the world is as it is currently, and I'm not president, and I'm not gonna be.
Right.
I'm also not gonna be president of the fucking world.
That's
which
you know what? That's what getting older is realizing, like, when you're young, man, you have all these like thoughts and ideas,
potential.
and yeah, well, I mean, you just have all this different stuff going on. But as you get older, it's just realizing the world is the way it is, and I just need to figure out my best way, my best path in the world as it is.
How do I navigate? Like if I can make, you know, my little area around where I live a little bit better, great. You
Right.
know, I'd love to work toward that. I do work toward that currently. You know, it's like, you know, it's not like I'm saying, oh well, if I could in a dreamland, you know, maybe I could make, you know, this or this better. It's like, you know, I try to make, you know, the world around me better. I only have so much reach,
Yeah.
and I'm not disillusioned with that necessarily. You know, sometimes it's disappointing, but you know, I look out at the wider world. You know, I'm disappointed in that. You know, but I know that I can't change a lot of that, right? You know, that there's only so much change I can affect, right, in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. What's
And
the saying about?
yeah, and you're right. Like as you get older, right? You know, it's that's kind of what you realize a little bit. You know, yeah. Go ahead.
What's that saying about tending your own garden?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not. Yeah.
But anyways, yeah. I mean, that's what I don't know. Like that's just what I've realized. Like, I don't know.
just
man.
like you know, don't throw stones. You know, if you own a glass house, right?
Right. Yeah. But I've just realized like growing up, the way I used to vote was always ideological. It was always like.
Oh,
This is the world I want to live in, so I'm going to vote this way and push the world in that direction. And as I've gotten older, I'm like, no, this is the world that I live in. I need to vote on things that are going to help me and the people that I care about.
Yeah, it's your focus pulls back, right? It goes from, you know, from worldwide, you know, to okay, what can I affect in my
Right.
local area? Because what happens in my local area is what's going to affect me.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and by you know, and by you know, by nature, you know, what I can also affect. You know, it's like the city council members, the state, you know, senators and whatever, you know, the state congressmen who you know, or the people that sit in your state senate, you know, your district, you know, judges and you know, things like that. You know, those become, or you realize those are more important than you thought they were. You know, I remember when I was 25. You know, I couldn't give you a fucking rat's ass of a care about who was in, you know, my who was being elected in my fucking district.
Right.
You know, I could not care less, right?
Right.
But now I realize that's way more important than I thought it was previously.
Right.
Because these guys, you know, make city ordinances and all sorts of other stuff that happens.
Right. And
You
these
know?
city laws impact me
and-
and impact the people
Yeah.
that I care about. Right.
And those people, right? You know, those lower level, you know, functionaries, I guess you could call them or whatever, affect, you know, the system, you know, higher up as well, right? So you know, you have you know, more of a certain, you know, party in power, you know, in your area, you know, and like then, you know, your county, you know, like that changes how your county works, that changes how your, you know, your state works and all that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, absolutely, and those guys could even move up into bigger positions. Yeah, no, I
Oh yeah,
same,
and they could do that too. So yeah.
same thing. Yeah, I mean, on the last, I think it was maybe 2 years ago or 4 years ago. I don't remember if it was the last time I elected, but yeah, recently, back when I was living in Garden Grove, I spent time going all over all those district councilmen
Yeah.
and I voted on every single thing that
A lot of those guys are fucking assholes too, man.
I know.
Like they're just the worst kind of, like you think like the national, you know, politicians are bad, and they are bad, right? Like, you know, they're probably bad at a level at which I'm currently incapable of understanding because, you know, like I don't understand all the trickle down stuff, you know, that they do. But like, you know, like the city councilmen and all those people, you know, like the lower level guys, you know, that you vote for around where you live, like if you look into those guys, though, it seems like they are all of them, the guys that you see in movies and TV or books, you know, they're kind of the greasy politician, you know, that like is easily understandable, but is obviously, you know, like to be maligned, right? You know, like they look great, you know, on their fucking photo, and you know, and they glad hand like crazy, you know, but like if you look at like their voting record and their past business dealings and like all this kind of stuff, like every fucking one of them is just up to their eyeballs in fucking muck, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But then
It's terrible.
But then I wonder if that's even true, if we just we as human beings have a tendency to over dramatize things in our head. We make monsters.
Sure,
out of,
yeah.
We make monsters out of humans, and we make,
Yeah, we also gloss over a lot of shit in our,
we
in our
do.
daily
That's
lives.
true.
You know what I mean?
That's true.
But I'm saying, like look into, like out of the, probably 20 politicians, that you have in local office around you, right? Take a look at a dozen of them, and really like, dig into their background, and you're going to find some greasy shit, that you like aren't happy to find. I don't know if
Yeah.
I recommend you do it, because like one, it's going to end up a waste of time anyway, and two, it's just going to, even if it doesn't prove my point, you're going to find shit you don't want to find.
right. I'm just gonna be like,
but
oh God, why did I do this?
or even if you didn't vote for the person, you're gonna be like, ah, God, why are they in office? And there's nothing you can do about it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, it happens, to a good percentage of, and I think it follows up on a point you made earlier about people and power and corruption and and having a bad day or or just making a bad decision
Yep.
during some part in your life and power does corrupt by its very nature, right? You are able to to exert your will upon things that are outside of your immediate vicinity and focus, that start to mean less to you because they are not directly involved with you, right?
Oh,
You
yeah,
can fuck somebody over, that's way across town, or that you don't even know, and that's terrible, but you don't really care because you have the power to do so and it benefits you, but you don't have to look at the repercussions.
Well, I mean,
look at
it's-
that.
we all abuse power, even the smallest amounts of power,
Sure. Yeah.
to make ourselves feel better, or I don't know. It's somewhere ingrained in our DNA.
It's whatever the fucking chemical is that makes you feel happy. I don't know.
Serotonin.
No,
No.
it's something else. Anyway, whatever. Okay, so but it's whatever makes you, like, if something makes you feel pleasure, right? Then then you're going to realize that, and then that is an option that you can take to feel pleasure. I mean, I'm a little I feel guilty about this being a parent, but like there are times where like I exert my power over my kids, and sometimes I'll do something and then it makes me feel like slightly better,
Right. Right.
and I'm their parent,
Exactly.
I love
Exactly.
I love my kids,
But that's
and
just
yet
the reality of
sometimes
being. That's just the reality of being a person. Yeah, I mean, parents do it to their kids, and I mean, it just happens on every level. Like, we will
Yeah.
abuse the smallest amount of power we get, and we might not. We're not necessarily like out to do that. Like, that's not necessarily our goal or anything like that. It's just
Yeah.
something happens where, like you said, we either make a bad decision, or we're having a bad day, and this is going to make us feel a little bit better, or whatever. We all do it, and so going back to the cop thing, to give cops that amount of power, when we'll abuse even the smallest amount of it, and for them to have that level of it, that's why I was saying we needed that much accountability on them. But anyways,
yeah.
go back to what you were saying.
So there's a or Stanford prison experiment. Look that up, right? As
I'm
far as
familiar with that.
Oh yeah.
I'm very
psychology
familiar with that,
experiment, yeah. Which was man, that was like, that's insane,
Yeah.
right?
But yeah, that's a very good
But
study
that's-
on how people
Will abuse
can,
power,
can
if,
abuse power. Not everyone will do that.
Well, no, I know.
That was
people
the
will
perfect
do it.
storm
Like,
of-
not everybody will, but yeah.
That was the perfect
I don't know
storm
about
of
perfect
people.
storm. Like, I don't know. I don't even know about that. It was like it was. It happened to be a good study on that, but that's not even what they were trying to study. Not exactly.
No,
But
but I mean, if
like,
I would like to see them try to replicate that and see if it's
well, they have done some replicative studies, based on that experiment, and they have all come to an unfortunate conclusion in that the majority of people do tend to abuse power in a way that you would not expect them to do so, right? And to a degree that you would not expect them to do so. But either way, anyway,
And that is our show. For Brad, I am Ken. Thanks for joining us.